1980, Anaheim, California. At the center of this story is Dorothy Jane Scott, a young, vibrant, and hopeful single mother. She worked at an optical store and was raising her 4-year-old son. Her life was ordinary, but over time, a sinister shadow appeared. Dorothy began receiving strange phone calls. A man's voice on the other end of the line would start with creepy, obsessive compliments and then move to threats. He stalked her, knew what she was wearing, where she was going, and constantly repeated that she belongs to him. Dorothy was terrified, but to avoid scaring her son and parents, she tried to hide her fear, dismissing the calls as bad jokes. This man had infused her life with fear, turning every phone call into an ordeal. On the evening of May 28, 1980, at work, Dorothy's colleague, Conrad Bostron, had a mishap. He was bitten by a spider. His arm swelled, and Dorothy, out of the kindness of her heart, offered to drive him to the hospital. On the way, they talked and laughed, completely unaware that these were the last normal moments of her life. They arrived at the hospital, and Dorothy spent about 2 hours there with Conrad. At midnight, she left to get her black Ford Pinto from the parking lot. From the window, Conrad saw her car, but something wasn't right. Soon after, he saw the black Ford drive away abruptly, followed by another car that seemed to be escorting it. This was the last time anyone ever saw Dorothy alive. The day after her disappearance, the phone at her parents' house, Vera and Jacob Scott, rang. Vera answered and heard a male voice say,
"I have Dorothy."
It was the same voice that had been stalking her daughter. From that moment, a true nightmare began. The calls became regular. The perpetrator called their home and their workplaces, mocked their grief, and sometimes played recordings that they believed were Dorothy's screams. One of the most chilling calls came to the local newspaper, the Anaheim Bulletin. The unknown man told a reporter,
"I have Dorothy, and I killed her."
The reporter swore he heard a faint, muffled woman's scream on the line. Years passed, but the nightmare didn't end. The perpetrator didn't stop. On the contrary, he enjoyed his power. He called on every anniversary of Dorothy's disappearance, on her birthdays, and on her son's birthdays. He told them he loved Dorothy, that she's still with him, and continued to play with their feelings like a cat with a mouse. Every time they answered the phone, the Scott family relived the horror. The police were unable to trace the calls as the technology in those years was primitive and the criminal knew it. It was not just a loss. It was an endless torture that the criminal inflicted on them for almost a decade. In 1984, 4 years after Dorothy's disappearance, her remains were found in the woods, but they were so decayed that they could only be identified by the ring and watch she was wearing. The family could finally bury her. But the nightmare didn't end. The calls did not stop. The killer continued to call, but now he would say that she's still with him and she hasn't left. The police were never able to find him. The identity of the person who killed Dorothy and tormented her family for years was never established.